Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop with a friend that I just met, Kym Warner, and he's indirectly from Australia, but directly he's from Austin, Texas right now. But
right.
He's only been living there, what, about 20 years?
Yeah, 21.
21 years. So, but he's headed back down under in what, less than 2 weeks?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
And is that going to be permanent? Or?
Yeah.
So he's moving back to Australia permanently. And you can't tell he's from there. He has no accent. He's got the Texas accent now. No, I'm kidding.
That's what my mates are going to say.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they probably will say that. But he brought one of his weapons here that we're going to take a look at. And this one is confused because the last one I had in here was an Irish bouzouki. Well, this one's, kind of an Irish bouzouki, Hawaiian bouzouki, a Texas bouzouki, and an Australian bouzouki. This one's all over the world here. It's made out of Hawaiian koa. That's why I said it was from Hawaii. And then it's also got Adirondack spruce top. And it's a very nicely made instrument. And he brought this to kind of learn on. He's what kind of a wannabe luthier, or is that what it is, or have you advanced past that?
No, I'm a wannabe luthier. Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm just asking. It was an honest question. It wasn't a put down. So he came here to maybe take a few luthier secrets back to Australia before he goes. I think he's thinking about getting more into the luthier end of the business. He's apparently pretty good at gigging, because I think he's been doing mostly gigging, haven't you?
Yeah, that's all I've done. Yeah,
that's all he's done. So he must be pretty good at it. We'll have to get him to play this for you. But we're going to, in my opinion, now this is just an opinion. In my opinion, this instrument doesn't really need anything, but he's wanting to learn how to do these things. So he wants to make a new saddle for it, and he wants to make a new nut for it, and set it back up. Now, if I get real critical, it does kind of need a new saddle, because there is some breakout here a little bit, and the nut itself, I don't really see a problem with. You've heard me say many times that if the nut's okay, just leave it alone, because that's where you spend all your money and you get very little return up here. In other words, this barely affects your sound at all. This affects your playability a lot. So if it is playing okay, I'd just leave this alone. But in this case, it's more of a learning thing. So we're just going to go ahead and replace both of them and show them how I do it, I guess. I was noticing on this bouzouki before you got here that it's unusual in my mind, because instead of pulled up, which most instruments pull up, this one's actually slightly sunk down. Did you ever notice that?
No, I haven't. No.
It's actually it's flat to slightly sunken. Let's just see if we can detect anything there. It's a little hard to do because you've got the armrest here, and actually there is a little bit of a hump there right behind the bridge, but in front of it it
looks concave.
Yeah, in front of it it's a little concave. On the back there is a little bit of a hump there. Actually, it's a bigger hump than I would have looked. I think because this is in my way, I'm having trouble seeing it, but yeah, there's a pretty decent hump there. So I guess when we get the strings off of it, we'll want to look inside too, to just see what's going on there, just to make sure everything's solid. But otherwise, it looks like a pretty fine instrument, and the action is very low on it already. I don't think I'd go any lower. It's around 70 thousandths here on the large strings, and on the small strings, it's like 60, something like that. So pretty good. We'll get started. My friends, you're in for a treat. I can tell this young man knows how to pick that thing, and I'm going to have him play you a little bit on it before we tear into it. Yeah.
sounds good. It never hasn't sounded good. It's
I don't know about you, but I feel like I should have to pay entertainment tax before we get started.
That's on the house, folks.
That was on the house. Anyway, man, that really was awesome. Some of the best picking there. I think I should take picking lessons. If I'm giving him lessons on luthier, I probably should take lessons from him on how to play. He also brought this. Now, this is not tuned up right at the moment, but tell him about that too.
This is it's a Giacomello mandolin made in Genoa, Italy, by Corrado Giacomello, and it's just I really took a chance on it. Got it because I just love the piece of art that it is. It's obviously been played and played well.
So he doesn't realize it, but that's made by one of my relatives because my family's from Genoa, Italy. We have to be related to him.
It must be. My family's from the north of Italy too. My mother's family. So yeah, it's really just a pretty cool piece of art, this thing. So, but luckily it sounds great. We'll see. We'll take it out of the pretty good straight out of the case.
My excuse is arthritis. No, you can tell he is one guy that knows how to pick an instrument. There's no question about that.
Thank you.
So, we're going to go ahead and get started now and tear these things apart and see what's going on. Okay, so to get started, as usual, we're going to loosen up the strings and we'll get the strings off of here, and then we'll show you what it looks like on the inside here, or we're going to take a look on the inside. I don't know how much you'll be able to see. And we're going to just look it over first, and then we'll get started on the saddle and nut. Well, my friends, we are looking inside this. I always think it's good to inspect one whenever you see something that you think's a little bit unusual. And the fact that this was kind of underbowed here, a little flat, and the fact that there was a fairly good hump here, the two things in combination, you'll see that almost every time anyway, but when you see it a little more than normal, which this in my mind was a little more than normal, then you should look at it. And sure enough, we have a broken brace on the inside. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this where you can see it very well, but I'm going to try. So let me move the camera down here just a little bit. One of the X braces, if this was a guitar, you have your X brace through here, and this basically has an X brace. This X brace from the X back, it's broke this way and then it's split back under. So I'm going to try to show you that, but honestly, I just have my doubts that you can see it. And I can't see the viewfinder well enough to tell if you can see it, but that would probably be the view to show it to you. Anyway, that's what it is. Yeah, the X brace is broke vertically first, I guess you'd say, and then horizontally split back through the brace. So we're going to fix that before we do anything. Well, my friends, this is one of these deals where, if you could get to it, putting CA glue on this would just be a piece of cake. But you got to imagine that it's up on this here and it's behind this front brace. So you got to go down, back up, and then straight over. And something like that, just don't do that. Then you can think of, well, if I had a flexible tube or something to put the CA glue on, you could use that. And yeah, you could. And in fact, now that I'm saying that, I've got this tube right here. I wonder if that would fit my CA glue bottle and I could bend this. I'm going to monkey with that a little bit off camera. Anyway, in the meantime, what I have done is I've taken this paintbrush and I've bent it in a weird shape, and I've got a metal handle on it. And I have been able to look through the mirror and paint the crack with this with water. And I've just used water so far because my idea was to use original wood glue. It'll make a big mess. You'll get in there and just paint everywhere. But the bristles on this, you can stab them back in that crack. And then you can work this brace up and down, and that glue usually will pump itself back in the crack. That will probably work. But now that I see this, I'm wondering if I couldn't bend this and possibly use this for CA glue. I doubt it's going to fit this bottle, first of all. That's the first problem. Pretty sure it's not. It looks like it's it's just too small. But if I had something like that with a bendable metal nozzle, I've got the flexible plastic ones, but the problem with them is that you can't keep them in the right shape. They just straighten out and they don't, yeah, you just can't get it where you want it. So it's a real predicament. I'm not playing it up for the camera. This is one of those deals where it's really hard to do. So about the only option you got is to put glue on this and reach up in there and just pat it around and just hope you can get it worked back into the crack. And that's really the only option I think I've got at the moment. I'm going to give it a little bit more thought before I actually apply the glue. Well, my friends, I have spent considerable time. I'm sure Kym's patience is wearing thin here. I have spent considerable time trying to figure out how I'm going to get in here and get the glue on this. This is not an easy fix. It's one of the harder types of fixes you'll ever do inside an instrument because it's up. You know, you got to go around something, then you got to defy gravity, come back up away from, you know, and so what I've done is I've heated this thing up with a heat gun. And I've bent it in a shape that kind of gets me around this front brace. I've got a mirror taped inside here with light on it. And the mirror can't really go anywhere now. I think now I'm back to using the CA glue because I do think the CA glue would be the quickest way to do this. But the problem with the CA glue, as everyone knows, is it runs everywhere. So you got to control it. So we're going to give it a shot. I'm sucking up CA glue into this and I'm going over this. It's already dripping. I can see it dripping. Yep, it just doesn't cooperate. I try so hard to not make a mess, but it just, sometimes it won't allow it. I've got it, a lot of it right in the spot it needs to be. I do think we're completely covered there. Now what I want to do as quick as I possibly can is to get this clamp on here. I already had the clamp sized, so basically all I got to do is squeeze it down. The crack is closing up. I got glue on the end of the crack too, where it's split there on the end. It looks like it's completely sealed right there, and I've got it snugged down nice and tight. Tons and tons of preparation to do 1 second's worth of work. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. And I just was trying to point out to Kym, since he's thinking about going into this line of work, this is where you spend your time. And you know, you guys see me doing this on camera, but you don't see all the behind the scenes prep. And I sometimes show it and sometimes I don't, because most of it is trial and error. And there's so many trials and so many errors that it's not really very good video, you know. But so you end up seeing the end result. So the end result was this. This was probably my best option in this case. And just suck up CA glue inside of this little, I don't know, what do you call these, glue applicator, syringe, or something like that. I do think we accomplished the goal. I do think we spilled a little bit of glue inside there, but you know, all things considered, not a horrendous amount. I was telling Kym that CA glue runs like a duck's butt, especially thin CA glue. It just goes everywhere. If you know anything about raising ducks, you'd know what I'm talking about. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the mirror out because it does look like the operation was successful. Or at least I think it was. And you can see how I had the mirror taped in place there. That was a real big part of it, was getting a mirror to not move. And taping the mirror down turned out to be the answer. Well, I let the clamp sit on there for several minutes and I took it off, and quite honestly, it did not fasten it. Oh, I'm disappointed. Really, I'm very disappointed. I really thought that was going to work first time. It did not. So I'm back to doing it again. The one thing I've told you before, and it is 100% true, is that CA glue sticks to itself better than it sticks to anything else. You know, the CA glue has coated all that now. So this time, I really do have a high level of confidence that it'll work. Yeah, doggone it, it's just frustrating that we have to do it again. So I'm gonna have to tape that mirror back in place because it will not stay where it's supposed to until I tape it. I should have just left it in place, I guess, until I took the clamp off, but I really felt confident that we had it done. But that's what I get for feeling confident. Using a paintbrush to push your tape down is another trick on the inside of an instrument. Anytime you have to put a label in or tape something down, a paintbrush is very good for that. To say I'm disappointed is incredibly understatement. So I'm going to get a little more CA glue here. I'm going to go back inside here and try it again. And this time I'm hoping it will work. Everything's backwards. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm turning it upside down to get the glue in the place that it needs to be in. It really looks like it's there. I can see it covering just about everywhere. I'm going to put the clamp on it again as quick as I can and see what happens. Oh, it squeezed glue out. I can see glue squeezing out of the crack. So I know we got glue in there. The other thing about CA glue is it's absolutely black and white fact. You can believe what you want. I'm not exaggerating. And that is that when you want it to set up quickly, it will take forever. And when you want it to set up, and give you a lot of time, it will glue instantly. And that's the truth with this stuff. It does it every time. And just like this, right now it looks like it's still wet in there. And ordinarily it sets up pretty darn quick. It's looking like it's still wet in there. I'm tempted to put my finger in there to touch it to see, but then I don't want to glue my finger in there. Such are the woes of a luthier. There's no black and white. There's no absolute way to do everything. Every time you do something, it's unique to that situation. So we'll give this a little time, and then we'll go inside there and try to figure out if it really worked this time or not. Just off camera, I spritzed a little bit of the accelerator in the hole. The problem is, again, you got to go around and back up. So I doubt seriously I really hit it very well. I know there was some leakage here on the edge, and I could see that. So I hit that, and I was hoping it would travel, because it does seem to travel with that accelerator. And that was my only hope with even trying it. I'm about ready to take the clamp off again, because I would think by now it should have set up. I've reached in there behind the clamp and I've touched the area where the glue is, and it does not feel wet at all. It feels dry. The clamp is sort of glued to it. That time it looks like it's stuck. It looks like it's stuck that time for sure. I don't see a crack down below. The end there where I had a lot of glue on the end grain, it looks like that's stuck too. I really do think it's fixed this time. So I think we're good. All right, well, we'll inspect that a little more and then we'll move on. Well, my friends, I think we were successful with the brace. It does feel solid. I've tried to move it, he's tried to move it, and it seems solid. That is a black and white property of CA glue. It sticks to itself better than anything else. So if you put it on the first time and it doesn't hold, always try it a second time. It almost always works the second time. How do I know that? I've only done it a billion times. This is my bridge heater. You've heard me talk about my full meal deal on a setup. Well, Kym is inventing things to add to my full meal deal here. So he's asking me to make a new bridge for this. He wants to see the process and learn how to replace a bridge. So we're using this as a guinea pig, I guess, and we're going to replace the bridge on this. Do I think it needs it? Not really. But on the other hand, it's a good learning experience. So we're going to do it. I've got my homemade bridge heater heating up. It's not very hot yet. There are a number of videos on my website, rosastringworks.com, that shows you how to build how to put all these components together for a side bender, and the components are identical to the bridge removal tool. Anyway, you can look at those videos if you're interested in learning how to build this. So we'll let that heat up and then we'll get going. Okay, our heater is up to temperature, so what I'm going to do is just lay it on here and we'll start heating this up. The other thing I do is I lay my knife on here, because that will heat my knife up. Now my knife will heat up really fast. The wood will take a little longer. This knife only takes a few seconds to get up to temperature. So I'm not too worried about the knife yet, but we will need to heat the wood up a lot and get it, as hot as you can get it without burning anything. because the hotter you get it, the softer the glue gets. You know, again, just for you folks watching, there's no zipper here. You know, you're basically breaking this to get it apart. And that's really the truth of it. I mean, you know, you can sugarcoat it all you want, but that's what you're doing. You have to kind of break the joint, and your hope is that you can soften it enough where it'll separate fairly easy. But every single one of them can be different. You know, a lot of experience certainly helps, like I have, but it doesn't guarantee absolute 100% success. I'm trying to heat up just the outer corners of this now without heating up the actual top of the instrument much. Let's see if I can reach in there and feel any heat coming through. And quite honestly, no, I don't feel any heat coming through at all so far. But I can barely reach it. The sound hole's way too small to get my hand in. Fortunately, I have very long fingers, so I can reach back in there, and I can actually feel the holes on the bridge there. But it does not feel warm yet, even though the bridge itself is actually smoking. This bridge kind of does need to be replaced anyway. It's got a bunch of cracks through the holes, so this is not a totally in vain effort here. This actually does need to be replaced. It not only does it have those cracks, but it's got a lot of chip out, so this bridge is not in very good shape. The only reason I probably wouldn't have replaced it is because it does not appear to be loose anywhere. And you know, I don't really see any other problem other than that broken brace, and I think we fixed that. Okay, well, it's got to be pretty hot by now, so. And this is where you have to be careful, accurate, whatever you want to say, because the knife itself can just burn a big old mess in your finish. You just have to be as careful as you can be. I'm going to put on my close-up glasses for this one, and I'm going to move the light down here where I can see better. You always hope that that first plunge is going to go in there, and it almost never does. And then the other thing about it is whether or not the spruce underneath it will act accordingly. In other words, will it, you know, come off flat and smooth, or will it tear out? And I'm hoping it'll come off, obviously, flat and smooth, but you know, almost always there's some tear out. You can't get in any big hurry on this either. You just have to take your time with it. And I don't know, obviously, what glue this was made with. This is a one-off instrument too, isn't it? I mean, or it was made custom for you?
Yes, sir.
It was made custom for Kym, so, you know, on a custom-made instrument like that, you just hope that they didn't use some unique kind of glue that won't come off, you know. Like, for instance, I don't recommend epoxies. Now, perhaps he used epoxy. I'm not saying he did, but if he did use epoxy, then we're almost wasting our time. It's not going to heat up enough to soften. Titebond Original is a very good glue for gluing on these things because it will soften with enough heat. We're getting a little bit of progress now, but it's only a little bit. We're up to the first line of holes. We're going to give Kym a chance here to try his hand at this, because that's what he's here for, is to learn. And just know that this is super hot. If you touch your finish, you will make a mark. So there you go. And that's perfect. Now just try to do it a little bit more this way, because we'd like to
We're trying to get over here, yeah.
We'd like to get these ends started, so just a little bit like that, and maybe a little on the other end, so we can start getting those ends to come loose. The ends are always the hard ones.
I'm just questioning the release when you pull it back this way.
Yeah.
How much force do you?
That can be.
See, this is we've got a good crack coming up here too. So.
Yeah, and that's probably okay. I mean, I don't really mind the bridge cracking too much,
especially since we're replacing it.
Yeah, yeah. Just be a little careful. Don't go too fast. Yeah. Because it can grab the wood underneath and bust it out. You know. The only thing I'd watch here is having this much exposure here, because you can actually burn this here too. Probably not, but you're probably okay. But I'd try to keep it under the wood, under your bridge, rather than let it stick out past your bridge. It's definitely going to come off. It's just the other thing about this is you just shouldn't get in a hurry. You know, on any of this, you should just take your time, and it will eventually come loose. Patience is really a virtue on this type of thing. But this one doesn't look to be too difficult. It looks like it's going to come off okay. You really don't know until you start on these how hard it's going to be. You just don't know. Some of them are very easy. Other ones are crazy hard. Trying to focus the heat mostly on the front edge because and I don't usually like to come in from the front edge because the bridges are always tilted like this, and it's harder to get under the front edge without burning your finish. So I typically don't go that way unless I have to. It just doesn't go as easy as you think it might go. It's really pretty hard. You got to push pretty hard. Sure. And then the negative of that is you got to know how hard to push because you just go right through it, you know, and it can all give at once, and then you can just tear out a big old chunk right on the front of here. That's about as hard as you should go, you know. You can heat the knife back up again if you want and try going back in there a little more.
Were you saying something about not coming in from this way?
I typically don't, unless I have to. And the reason is because when you come in from this front edge, the bridges are always tilted this way. They're always tilted that way. And it's hard to get in under that front edge. Yeah. You're welcome to try it if you want to. I don't have a problem with you trying it, but but you can certainly cause more damage that way. So if you can avoid it, you're better off. I think that's an artist palette knife is what I think it is. I think it used to be a lot longer and came back to kind of a little bit of a rounded point. I shortened it and, you know, beveled that in because the short stiff like that is much better for prying like this. A long tool will bend, and ask me how I know that.
Do we want it to come out this side, or is that? I mean, I know we want it to come off, but
yeah, you want to get it loosened up to that edge, and then it'll just fold right up and pick right up. As you're looking through those holes, you want to try to make sure you're not going down under the spruce, because you'd be surprised. It's easy to go down under your spruce. Sure. It really is. It's something you can't even tell you're doing it. I just saw something stop. It's cracking right along this front edge here, so don't go any deeper there. Let's try something else here. Let's score this front edge because it looks like it wants to break the finish up. And I don't really feel a problem scoring this because more than likely our new bridge will be slightly bigger than this anyway, and we'll probably rescore it again and get rid of all that finish. It's probably not a bad idea to make it a habit to score this ahead of time. I don't always do that, I'll admit, but it's probably not a bad idea. We're in pretty good shape everywhere except just this one end, it looks like. Right. I don't know if it'll go in this way. Sometimes it's not a bad idea if you can get it in there without creating a problem. And I'm not trying to go very far this way. I'm just trying to get it to lift. We're doing pretty good. I think we're going to come off of here this time. I think we're just about there. Yeah, some finish. Yeah, there was some finish. See, it was glued to the finish around here. That right there is finish. And so it was actually glued to the finish on the front edge. I prefer them not to be glued that way. That's just my preference. The reason they do that is because they don't have to hide any mistake. You know, it hides the mistake for you because you're gluing right over the top of the finish, you know, and they only cut out in between there. That is kind of industry standard practice. It's not my practice. And the reason I say you don't want to do that, it's completely structural and it's completely sound. When you get this thing sitting right directly on your spruce and not insulated from this through this finish, you will get a better sound transfer because it's just wood to wood. It's just my preference not to do it that way. And so if you really look at it, here's what was holding the bridge on, was that area right there. The rest of that was pretty much decoration because that part there glued to the finish, it doesn't hold much at all. In fact, it doesn't really hold anything. So there you go. We'll change all that as we make the new one. We found a piece of ebony that is just a tiny bit bigger than the bridge that was on there, and it's just the perfect size for making this. What I'm going to do is set up the thickness of this, and we're going to saw out the thickness first. In other words, it's going to be going through the saw kind of like this, standing the bridge on its edge. I'm going to have to raise this all up and get it set. And what I usually do is just take the old bridge and just kind of use that as my depth gauge here, or my thickness gauge if you want to call it that, and just add a little bit, you know, and just when I say a little bit, I just mean by eye, and you know, you just want to make sure that you got a little bit left, a little bit of room there to play with. And I got it locked in, and we're not touching, so I think we're good. And then I've already kind of flattened this edge and this edge. I just flattened them a little bit, so I'm going to run it through the saw like this. In fact, I'm probably going to let Kym run it through the saw like this. The only thing about this, Kym, I don't know if you've ever used a bandsaw or not, but I'm just going to tell you right up front, because being that this is my shop and I don't know you, this is the most dangerous tool in the shop. People don't believe me when I say that. It doesn't look like it's doing anything. People take it for granted, and then they cut their thumbs off because they're pushing the wood through, and it will go through real fast at the very end, and it will cut your thumb right off. So just be very careful that that blade will amputate anything that you stick in there. Okay? So anyway, other than that, it's fine. It's an easy tool to use. Just keep your hands away from it. When you get close to the end, what I do is put my finger here. Like, for instance, this will be about here now, you know, and you just get your finger and just use this to push it through the rest of the way. And your best angle is to push a little bit this way, because you're keeping this against the fence. In other words, push like this. So you're pushing at an angle as you're pushing forward. Okay?
Okay.
Okie dokie, here you go. Okay, if our filming turned out okay, you just saw Kym slice this on the bandsaw, and now he is going to trace around this with the, I don't remember what size lead this one has, but anyway, it's the thicker lead that I have here. When we saw it out, we're going to saw it out and leave every bit of the pencil mark. And so we're going to saw it right up to the pencil mark, but leave the pencil mark. And that way we're ensured that this will cover the space and then just a little bit more. Okay, so we've got a pretty good shape here. We may revisit the shape a little bit more after we do some more work to it, but right now it's pretty close. So we're going to call that good enough for the moment. What we're going to do now is thickness this to the proper thickness, and I'm just going to check around here and see where the thickest spot is on this bridge, on the original. And there's 318, 336, okay. So it looks like 336 is probably going to be about it. 335. I think we'll shoot for 335. I think that's a good number. But what we'll do first is we'll flatten one edge of this, and this is, we're going to call this the top, because that's where the pencil mark is. So we're going to consider this being the up. And so what we're going to do first is flatten this bottom off really good and flat, because you can see it's not perfectly flat there. There's a little bit of roughness there. So we'll flatten this off first, then we'll go through our thickness sander till we get it down to 335. Okay, Kym's going to straighten out the front edge of this to the pencil mark with the sander. Kym's going to give it a shot, running it through the thickness sander. Check the thickness and see where we're at. 338, we're shooting for 335, so we're about 3 thousandths to go, and just from experience, that's probably about like that. Probably be real close. thousandths thin. Shame on you. Okay, so, you know, Kym kind of fouled up on his first attempt here at thickness sanding. He got it a 1/2 thousandth of an inch too thin. I'm just kidding. It really makes no difference. A 1/2 thousandth is, you know, about 1/8 of a hair if you split a hair 8 times. We're going to now try to put this little curve in here. Now, we could do this a couple of different ways. We could profile the top first, because this top is profiled down like so. In other words, it's thicker here and then it kind of folds down. We could do that first, or we could just do the ends first. And to me, I think doing the ends first is easier, and then we'll have less material to curl down. Really, what this amounts to is just drawing this in by hand, you know, approximately where you want it. And in our case, we're going to draw it in as a straight line. We'll first line up this and get the same amount of reveal all the way around, like we have. And then we're going to just put a pencil mark where we want to stop and a pencil mark where we want to stop on our corners here. And then we'll just draw a straight line across our corners. And then we need to do the same thing on the other end. I'll let Kym do that one. All right, so we've got our work cut out for us now. We know where we need to remove wood, and we're going to remove it on these ends. Now what we're going to do is, and we'll show you here in just a second, is we're going to slide this end into the thickness sander up to the point where the curl of the sander stops right on that line, or real close to it. And we can always go more, so it's better to stop a little short at first, and then we'll just kind of work each end down until we'll keep lowering the table, or raising the table in our case, and we'll keep making it thinner until we get down to about the thickness that this is. And let's just measure that, because we don't really know how thick that is either. And we just got to get our calipers here. Our calipers, as I call them, because they're always leaping away. Right now it looks like it's 105 thousandths on that end. Let's see if it's about the same. Now there's some glue on this, so this end's thinner, but this end's got glue on it. You know, for my money, I think we should go to 100 thousandths. I really don't think I'd feel comfortable going much under that. So we're going to go to 100 thousandths, and we'll stop at that. Okay, I'm going to start this process to show Kym how I do it, and we'll go ahead and get everything turned on. And basically, I just in and back out, turn it around, in and back out. It's really what it amounts to. Now, I'm going to, since we've got this set at the thickness of this presently, I'm going to go ahead and turn it in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. We're almost at the line, and we'll do it the other way on this side. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. We're just about to touch the line on that side. What we'll do is we'll raise this up about that much, and we'll do it again. Okay, we're about there again. We just raise it about that much again, and we just do it again. Once you get this going, you can feel it. It takes a little while before you can feel it. So I want to get it up to the point where you can feel it, and then I'll turn it back over to Kym. Okay, we've got a significant dish there now, and you can actually feel it kind of stop against there. When you're pushing this in, you'll feel the wheel kind of hit that, and at that moment, at the very moment you feel that little bit, you want to stop, and then that way you won't go too far. So it's a feel thing, and you'll want to approach it pretty cautiously until you get that feel, you know. So I'm going to turn it over to Kym. Here we go. Okay, we've kind of got it rough shaped on the ends. It could be refined a little bit more. I'm not too worried about that yet because we've still got lots of detail to put in this, and we can always refine it a little bit more. So we're in pretty good shape for the shape we're in. And we're going to now round this off. Now, there's a lot of ways you could do this. And probably the easiest way would be to take it over to the sander and just round it off, okay? And we may end up doing that, but what's the fun in that? We need to show Kym the technique of using the finger plane. And the finger plane is so helpful so often. And often I just do the whole thing with the finger plane because it just works so good, you know. But you do need to learn the technique of using the finger plane. And, you know, the finger plane will allow you to sculpt it versus the sander will only allow you to just, you know, roll it over or whatever. And that may be all we need to do in this case, but I'm just pointing out that learning the finger plane skill is a very handy luthier skill. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm grabbing it like that, and I'm just rolling it around there, and you can see it's almost effortless.
Yeah.
It won't be when you try it. Well, my friends, you're in for yet another treat. I watched a whole bunch of videos on YouTube last night of Kym Warner playing his mandolin and different instruments. Yeah, Chris Thiele, hang your head in shame. Oh my gosh.
Crazy now. Let's not get too crazy.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 2.5. He's a full 10, for sure. He's playing the mandolin that I play every day, and I'll tell you ahead of time, it's set up too low. I screwed up the last time I set it up and just got it too low, so I need to raise it back up. My gosh. I can play everything he just played, but I can only play like 3 notes out of it, you know. Just...